Do you know any African American nurses that have contributed to the body of nursing, to the profession of nursing? And when I went to do the research on this particular video, I knew of a handful, but guys, I really didn't know of all of these women. And I felt like, dang, you know, shame on you. Shame on you, Jamesia. I know most of you know about Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, but there are some others. And if you're interested in that, and it's Black History Month, stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jamesia Capri, the nurse practitioner extraordinaire. And if you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're already subscribed, welcome back guys. Thank you so much for all the love. Thank you for all the support. Hey guys, hit that subscribe button. Give me a like if you like these videos. It just helps my channel to get bigger and more expansive. And YouTube, for whatever reason, will pump out my videos to all of you guys who'd love to see my channel. All right, so hey, let's just jump right in. We all know that there's African American nurses that have contributed to the nursing profession. And today I want to highlight some of those nurses for Black History Month. I know, it's the last part of February and I should have been done with this video. However, I kind of procrastinated. So forgive me, here I am, I'm doing my thing. So in no particular order, I want to share with you some of the extraordinary African-American nurses, and some of these nurses, really, mostly all of these nurses, have paved the way for me, for you to become professionals and excellent in our field. And you know, making this video, it makes me happy, but at the same time, it kind of makes me sad because we're still trying to, you know, it's like, I feel like we're still clamoring to make our voices heard in the nursing profession. And that kind of makes me sad, you know, because there's so many good professional Black nurses. And when I went to do the research on this particular video, I knew of a handful, but guys, I really didn't know of all of these women. And I felt like, dang, you know, shame on you. Shame on you, Jamesia. So here I am, bearing my soul to you all and sharing with you some African American nurses. So in no particular order except for this first one, who probably really paved the way for all of the other ones that I'm going to highlight for you today. I am first going to start with Eliza Mahoney. And Mary Eliza Mahoney was known for being the first professional African American nurse. And she became a registered nurse in 1879. And after graduation, Mahoney became one of the first Black members of the American Nurses Association. She was also honored by ANA, and she has a scholarship currently with ANA for women of color who are going through to get their Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. So she is very pivotal in nursing as far as African American nurses are concerned. And notably, Mahoney was also a supporter of the suffrage movement. And at the age of 76, she was among the first women in Boston to register to vote after passage of the 19th Amendment. So she was the bomb.com, and you should know her. Okay. So like I said, in no particular order, I am going to talk about the next star on the list, and that is Brigadier General Hazel Johnson-Brown. Now, Miss Hazel Johnson-Brown, or should I say Dr. Hazel Johnson-Brown, she first tried to gain admission to a local hospital, and they basically told her that she was never going to get in. They've never admitted an African-American nurse to the program, and she continued to try, and she was finally admitted, and she finally graduated, and she is known to be the first Black woman ever promoted as Brigadier General in the Army, and she headed the first 7,000 U.S. Army Nurse Corps. So she's known for that. And she went on to get her Educational Administration doctorate, PhD. And to top it off, she was awarded a number of distinguished military decorations, in addition to being named the American Nurse of the Year twice. And I think that is totally awesome. And pretty much she also enlisted in 1955 during the President Truman, where he banned segregation in the armed services. And she rose up in the ranks after all of that oppression. She was able to do that. Okay. And the next nurse that I want to talk about, I know you guys all know that Sojourner Truth was also a nurse, and she was a nurse way back. And she pretty much is a women's rights activist. And although she would later gain fame as an abolitionist, she was also a nurse. And what she did was she helped the slaves and treated the slaves, and pretty much was their nurse during that time. And so I wanted to highlight that. And Sojourner Truth worked at the National Freedom Relief Association in Washington, D.C., where she strove to improve the cleanliness and the quality of care. But perhaps most notably, Sojourner Truth used her strong voice and eloquent speeches to urge Congress to finance training programs for nurses. Okay, so she was awesome in that way. She was able to do that back then. And when I tell you, it is so inspiring to read about these nurses back then, all of the things that they went through and all of the challenges. Really, you know, I have nothing to complain about. I mean, I got a little bit of BS obstacles, but these are real obstacles that these women went through in order to pave the way for you and me. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I highlighted these women for Black History Month. And I'm gonna move on to one of my favorite that I learned about. And I learned about this particular nurse in a roundabout way because I'm also an entrepreneur as well. I learned about Bridget Biddy Mason, who is a nurse, or was a nurse, who pretty much, she's really well known for the fact that she was taken to Los Angeles, California, and she was a midwife, and she used all of her nursing money to buy up property in Los Angeles. And you guys know that's where I'm from, Los Angeles, California. And she bought up all of this property. She was an entrepreneur in that way. And the money that she used is from nursing. She was a nurse, she was a midwife, and she saved up all that money. She bought up a lot of land, and then she built the first AME church. So this particular church was a church where African American people could go and worship without being, I guess, bothered or whatever. So it says here that Bridget Biddy Mason from 1818 to 1891 is an American hero. She was born enslaved. Mason became one of the first prominent citizens and landowners in Los Angeles in the 1850s and the 1860s. She also founded the first African Methodist Episcopal Church in Los Angeles in 1872. She developed her herbal medical skills and midwifery taught to her by her female slaves. These skills were passed down from Africa, Caribbean, and Native American traditions. So again, she used her medicine to buy property in Los Angeles to establish a church. And I thought that was, I just really love her story. So hey, you guys, read up on Biddy Mason. All right, and the next nurse I want to talk about is Susie King Taylor. And Susie King Taylor was born in 1848 and she died in 1912. And she was born into slavery. And a lot of these nurses were born into slavery and were working in slavery times. But the thing that I want to highlight about her is that she wrote a book, and it's called Reminiscence of My Life in Camp. And it was about her life and experiences as an African American in the Army. And so she was born in slavery in Georgia. Susie King Taylor learned to read and write as a young girl, though it was prohibited for her to do so. When the Civil War broke out, King escaped with her family to the Union controlled by St. Catherine Island and soon relocated to St. Simons Island, where she opened a school for African American children and adults. There she married Sergeant Edward King of the Union 33rd U.S. Colored Infantry and traveled with the regiment nursing injured and sick soldiers. Y'all, for real? Okay, no, we have nothing to complain about at all. Although, you know, I do feel really blessed to be in the position that I am in as an African American doctorally prepared nurse, being able to teach and be at the I guess, you know, be able to share my craft with other nurses and African American nurses, just seeing that it is possible to get your doctorate. And nowadays, it seems like they come a dime a dozen, but honestly, there's still a very few amount of African American women doctorally or PhD prepared. And when I can see like the admiration in my students' eyes when they meet me and they are like, dang, you know, she's really just like me. So what in the world, what am I doing? So anyway, basically, so that right there is important to me, and to just stay humble and to just be inspiring to my students. So let's move on. That was a little tangent. Work with me. Hang in here with me. Okay? All right. So the next person I want to talk about is Harriet Tubman. And we all hear about Harriet Tubman, and we all know about Harriet Tubman, and hopefully she will soon to be on the $20 bill. Loving it. Anyway, Harriet Tubman was an all-around inspirational figure who risked her life countless times to free others from slavery. And during the American Civil War, she used her knowledge of herbal medicine to treat wounded soldiers on the island of Port Royal off the coast of South Carolina. And yeah, so after the war was over, Tubman continued to nurse others and help founded a home for the elderly. So she was amazing. I mean, you know, let me tell y'all, you know, I want to inspire and push people to be their best self. I don't know that I possess the Harriet Tubman strength or the Sojourner Truth strength. You know, y'all, I mean, I'm strong and all, but this right here is just beyond amazing to me. What these women risked, their lives, their family, their jeopardy, their health to help and nurse and take care of other people. So I think that's amazing. So that is Miss Harriet Tubman. And yeah, you know, the fact that she pretty much helped free over 300 slaves, and you know, I can only imagine having to use the Underground Railroad. People got sick, people got dehydrated, people got injured, or whatever the case may be, and she was able to use her skills to nurse them back to health and just to keep them pushing, keep them going. So that's also amazing. But let's move on to someone a little bit more modern. Let's talk about Biddy Smith Williams. She was or is a leader and trailblazer. She is recognized as the let me just read what it says here because I really don't know her like that. I should, but I don't. Betty Smith Williams, as a leader and trailblazer, Williams clearly recognized the need to forge ahead despite finding roadblocks at every juncture. However, she also understood the power that comes when people join forces and work towards a common goal. As an individual, she was the first to graduate from Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing in Cleveland, Ohio, and the first Black person to teach at higher education institution in California. From there, she went on to start the National Black Association in 1971. So she's known for that, having started the National Black Nurses Association in 1971. Wow, that was like 53 years ago. So that means that we didn't have an association back then. It's only 53 years or so old, 52, if I'm doing my math. Anyway, which continues to improve African Americans across the country. Yeah. So, hey, you know, if you have a Black Nurses Association, any nurses association really, you should join it. Okay? Let's move on. Let's talk about Lillian Holland Harvey. Now, Harvey was not only a successful nurse, but she was also a powerful educator. She served for 30 years as the Dean of Tuskegee University School of Nursing, where she developed nursing programs, not nurse practitioner programs. So yeah, she served as the Dean at Tuskegee University of Nursing, where she served as the Dean for 30 years, and she helped establish a Bachelor's of Nursing program there. So that's what she is known for. We'll talk about Mabel, Keaton, Staupers. And she was from Barbados. She became a U.S. citizen in 1917 and studied nursing at Freeman Hospital School of Nursing in Washington, D.C. And her major focus was to battle tuberculosis back in those times, which pretty much hit the Black community really, really hard. And she helped to establish an inpatient tuberculosis clinic at the Booker T. Washington Sanctuarium, and later became the executive secretary of Harlem Tuberculosis Committee. So that's amazing. And now we'll talk about Jessie Sleet Scales. She was the first Black public health nurse, and she worked on tuberculosis as well. So she came before Mabel Staupers, where she worked on tuberculosis in the African American community. So she was well known for that. And then there's Estelle Massey Osborne. She was the first Black woman to earn a master's degree in nursing. And she really just wanted to move nurses to a higher caliber of nurse, whether you were African American or not. It just happened to be that she was working with African American students. And in 1943, Osborne became a consultant for the National Nursing Council for War Services and helped to get the color ban lifted from nursing in the U.S. Army and Navy. She doubled the forces of African American nurses within 2 years. And she was the first Black member of the New York University teaching faculty and used her position to continue to fight for Black nurses and nursing rights. So she was also amazing in that way as well. And so I think I have just a couple more to go over here. This particular nurse here, Mary Van Brittan Brown, she's also one that I found pretty intriguing because she's really an entrepreneur and not known for being a nurse, but she was a nurse, and she used her money to, she's from New York, and being in New York, she felt like, she lives in Jamaica, Queens. She felt like it was really, dangerous, I guess, and she invented the home security system. Okay? Cutting up. Anyway, so let me just read a little bit about her. Marie Van Brittan Brown was a nurse and an inventor. She was the inventor of the home security system in 1966, along with her husband, Albert Brown. In the same year, they jointly applied for a patent, which was granted in 1969. And Brown was born in Jamaica, Queens, New York, and she died there at the age of 76. So that's also amazing. And the very last one I want to talk about is Mary Seacole. And Mary Seacole, you know, I did some research on her, and she is one of those nurses that kind of rivals with Florence Nightingale. And I didn't say her first because I wasn't sure about the research that I found, whether it was 100%, but I did want to mention her. She is, she's a British nurse who also was working with soldiers during the Crimean War at the same time that Florence Nightingale was, but she never really got that much recognition until later. And they ejected a statue about her, and it's still there to this day. And while I was doing some research, it seemed like, I'm not 100%, like I said, I'm not 100% sure on her and her background, although it is there and they do talk about it. But I did find something interesting that talked about she was a restaurant owner, and she really was just offering her place of service as an entrepreneur to the soldiers so they can come and have somewhere to eat that was clean and stuff like that. And during that time, she kind of worked on them if they were injured, bandaged them up, and did like little simple procedures on them. But they did recognize her as a nurse, and I'm not 100% sure if she was trained as a nurse. But really, you know, it doesn't matter to me as much, because I feel like, you know, she worked with injured soldiers during that time, and she didn't get as much recognition as Florence Nightingale. And of course, we all know, you know, because of her history of being African American at the time. But let me just read a little bit about her. It says here, after the outbreak of the Crimean War in 1853, Seacole traveled overseas to the British War Office and determined to serve as an army nurse. Then she was refused. She funded her own trip to Crimea and started a hotel for injured soldiers, which in my research, I kind of found out it might have been a restaurant for profit or whatever. It wasn't like a nonprofit, but anyway, no shade, no shade. And so she took some salvage materials and things like that and braved enemy fire to nurse the wounded on the battlefield. Affectionately, she's known as Mother Seacole, and she's still remembered in Brittan, where many buildings and organizations are named after her and in her honor. So that's an honorable mention. No shade. So that's pretty much the video, and it is long, but it is, you know, it's necessary. You know, there's no history at all without Black history, and so I thought that this was important to do this topic, and I hope you guys learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you hung in here with me, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, guys. If you have comments, leave your comments below. Turn on your bell notifications so you hear from me when I upload every Tuesday and Saturday, and I'm kind of going towards doing some lives on Thursday. I don't know if that will be every Thursday, but you know, I'm gonna test it out a little bit, guys. So anyway, I enjoyed this topic. Thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.